Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Share with your friends. Hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I am Crystal, and today we are going to be making the Aralia tank top. Now this tank top is designed to be a layered tank top, which with of course like a camisole underneath. It is designed to flare out on the side and have the ends be longer than the front and the back. Both the front and the back sides look exactly the same. Now, because this is worked from the top down, you can choose the length that you want. As you see, several people made theirs into a dress for the kids, so that's totally fine also. Now, this project is sized from child size 2 and 3T all the way up to 14 and 16 youth for like teenagers. I do have an adult size in this same pattern, but that is worked with a 2-weight yarn. And this one for the kids is worked with a 3-weight yarn and a 5mm hook. All right. Now, the tutorial that you're going to see today, the patterns are exactly the same, the adult and the child size, but obviously different counts, different increases, all that kind of stuff. So the tutorial that you're going to see today is actually the tutorial that I made for the adult size, and I'm just going to be modifying the words that are scrolling up and down your screen for the child sizes. So you might hear me reference plus sizing or extra large or small or something like that. Just pay attention to the words that are scrolling and the counts that are scrolling for the size that you want. Now there will be a written pattern linked in the description box below. I'll also link the adult size below. And don't forget to join the Jolie Knots Crochet community on Facebook. You can show us what you've created. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Jolie Knots Crochet for new pattern releases. All right, so as far as the sizings go here, I'm going to go ahead and leave scrolling up on the screen the amount of yarn that you are going to need. I used the ice cream yarn from Lion Brand, which is a cotton blend. It is 47% acrylic, 47% cotton and 53% acrylic. These come in 3.5 ounce skeins, 225 yards. And this is what I have left of my second ball for a size 10-12. I made for Jolie was the size 10-12. So I used about 400 yards for her size. Okay, now I am using a 5mm hook for this project also. And it is a little bit difficult to explain sizing and what rows start where, and it does make it really difficult if I'm not making every size to show you guys. So I apologize if it gets confusing, but I'm really doing my best to try to give you guys a free pattern. So don't get upset with me if you're not understanding. Do me a favor and show your support and purchase the written pattern if that's going to be easier for you. Or like I said, join the Jolie Knots Crochet community group and you can get help with the pattern there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And like I said, remember that I am showing you the tutorial and I'm making edits in all the words that are coming up and down your screen for the child size. So it is going to be a thinner yarn, and it's going to be a little itty bitty cute one. All right, so if you have a little doll, you could definitely make something smaller. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you're going to do is create a slip knot. Now, depending on the size that you are making, you are either going to chain anywhere from 8 to 10 stitches. So leave scrolling on the screen how many stitches you need. I'm just going to chain 6 because, like I said, I'm just going to be making a very small one swatch for you guys. Now we are going to half double crochet into the second chain from the hook, and in each chain after that. Once you've finished row 1, getting started on row 2, we're going to chain 2. That's not going to count as a stitch. Turn your work, and now we're going to double crochet into every stitch. So if you chained 8, you should have 7 stitches across. If you chained 10, you should have 9 stitches across. That is the end of row 2. Getting started on row 3, we're going to chain 3. That does not count as a stitch. Turn your work, and now we're going to treble crochet. So wrapping our yarn twice into each stitch all the way across. Oops. And these are your 3 repeat rows. So you're going to repeat rows 1 through 3. So half double crochet row, double crochet row, and a treble crochet row for the amount of the beginning strap that we're creating. So right now we are currently working on just this beginning strap before we start the increases. All of the child sizes will have 4 rows to begin the top panel. Row 1 is your half double crochet, row 2 is your double crochet, row 3 is your treble crochet, and then you'll have 1 more half double crochet row. We're just going to pretend 3 is the amount of rows that I need. Say that your next row is a half double crochet row. Well, we're going to start our increases here, and the way that we're doing our increases is I am going to chain 1, and I'm placing 2 stitches into my first stitch and 2 stitches into my last stitch. So every row is going to every row is going to increase by 2 stitches per row. Now, if your top panel ended on a double crochet row, then your first increase row is going to be a treble crochet. So you're going to place 2 treble crochets in the beginning stitch and 2 treble crochets in the ending stitch. So just like this, you're increasing 2 stitches per side. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do 3 increase rows, but I'm going to leave scrolling up on the screen until you have a total 5 to 8 increase rows. Not including your top panel, but your increase rows. So pay attention carefully. If the words on the screen do not make sense to you, I apologize, but you can go ahead and find the link to the written pattern in the description box below. Remember, we are increasing by 1 stitch on each side. So you are going to have 2 stitches in your first stitch and 2 stitches in your last stitch. Top panel ended on a half double crochet row, then your first increase row is going to be a double crochet row. So we're just going half double crochet, treble crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet. So if you have 9 top panel rows and 9 increase rows. It doesn't really matter exactly which, like where it starts. Say for example, you're on a I'm stopping my increases now on a treble crochet row, or somebody else is stopping their increase rows on a double crochet row. That doesn't matter, because your next row is always going to be the next one in the sequence. So I have here now, oops, my treble crochet row as my last increase row. So I did 3 top panel rows, and I'm doing 3 increase rows. Each row, again, like I said, is increasing by 2 stitches. Once you are finished with your top panel rows and your increase rows, your stitch count, I'll go ahead and leave your stitch count scrolling on the screen for how many stitches you have at the end of your increase rows. Now when you finish out your increase rows, just like I have done here, it should look like this. Larger, obviously, so it should technically look like this. So from your top to right here. Okay, so now you're going to cut your yarn, only you're not going to fasten it, because we're actually going to slip stitch. And you're going to leave approximately a 6 to 8 inch tail so that you have room to weave in the ends. Go ahead and use a stitch marker so you don't lose your stitch there. And we're going to leave it just like that for now. Now what we're going to do is attach our yarn to the starting end where we began. And the way that I do that is I just use a magic knot. And this is where I'm going to begin. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into that first chain right there and pull up a loop. And now I'm going to make this top piece. I'm going to chain 1 before my half double crochet. It does not count as a stitch. And I'm going to half double crochet into every single chain, and my stitches should be the same. So if I started with 7 stitches, I should continue having 7 stitches, because we're doing that first step that we just completed. We're doing it exactly the same to create the top of the back panel. So if you had 7 beginning rows, then you should have 7 beginning rows on this side. If you had 7 increase rows, then you should have 7 increase rows on this side. So I'm going to make the back of this exactly the same as I made the front, but I'm not going to cut my yarn yet. So don't cut your yarn. And then you're going to make 2 pieces exactly the same. So let me finish this out. We're going to be chaining once you finish the second side of the top back panel to create space for our underarms. Okay, so once you finish your increase rows, it should look something like this. I'll also go ahead and leave a photo on the screen of what it should look like. Right? Now the next thing we're going to do, depending on your size, you are going to chain anywhere between 11 and 23 stitches. I'm just going to chain 3 so that I can show you that on this small piece that we're doing. So 1, 2, 3. It will be an odd number. Now I'm going to take, making sure that my chain is not twisted, I am going to go ahead and slip stitch it to the first chain on the other, the first stitch on the other side, and that will be opposite of where your stitch marker is. So we're going to find that first stitch of our last increase row on the other side and slip stitch together. Go ahead and chain 2 secure. Now we can cut our yarn here, leaving a long enough tail to sew in. So your first panel should look like this. Again, larger of course, but it should look like this. And you should have your chains on one side. The other side should not be attached, and you should have your stitch marker with your unfastened end on the other. So you're going to make 2 of them exactly like that. So it should look like this as far as the bigger one goes, and then for the underarms you'll just have that chain. So I'm going to go ahead and make my second one, and then I'll meet you back to show you how to attach them together and how to get started on all of our body rounds. Okay, so now that we have 2 pieces, remember we have our chain slip stitched. One side has a stitch marker and one side does not. So we're going to put both of our pieces together where the stitch markers are on the inside and the chains are on the outside, making sure that you're looking at the front or the same side of your last row so you don't get mixed up. What we're going to do is right here where we didn't fasten off, we are going to put our hook right back into that space, and we're going to slip stitch it to the other side where the stitch marker is not. So slip stitch, and this is now the center of your neckline, and you can fasten and weave in those ends. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And we're just fastening them together. We're slip stitching and then fastening your yarn. And this is what your work should look like. Now both sides of your work, there's not a right or a wrong side or an inside or an outside or anything like that. The back is going to look exactly the same as the front, okay? Now we're going to get started on the body rounds. So, with this piece here, this is what we've created, is our top pieces with our chains, okay? Now we're going to get started on these body rounds. Now depending on the last row that you finished, you could have a half double crochet, you could have a double crochet as your last row, you could have a treble crochet as your last row. So whatever is coming into the next sequence is what you're going to start your body rounds with. So for example, the last row in my sequence here is a treble crochet. So I'm going to start with a half double crochet. Now this is going to take a little bit of time to explain, so have some patience with me because it's actually pretty difficult to explain all the different sizings in a video. And again, if you don't understand, I truly apologize. It's something that I try to do for you guys, but if it's not understandable, you are just going to need to go ahead and follow the link below for the written pattern. Okay, so you're going to find your middle stitch in your armpit. So for example, if you have 11 chains, your middle stitch is going to be your 5th one. I only have 2 chains here, so my middle stitch is going to be my 2nd. I'm sorry, I only have 3 chains, so my middle stitch is going to be my 2nd. Now I'm going to attach my yarn to my middle stitch, my middle chain. Now, because I am working a half double crochet row, this row is a little bit different than the other ones. So how I'm going to start here is with a standing single crochet. If you are starting with a double crochet row, you're going to start with a standing double crochet. If you are starting with a treble crochet row, you are going to start with a standing treble crochet. Now this beginning row for the half double crochets only it's the only one that does not have a stitch increase. I'll show you where the stitch increase is on my next run around. Okay, so if you're doing the half double crochet, you're starting with a single crochet. If you are starting with a double crochet row, you're going to start with a double crochet. If you're starting with a treble crochet row, again, you're starting with the treble crochet. Now into the next stitch, we are going to place half double crochets all the way around until you get to the next midpoint. So go ahead and actually place a stitch marker in your middle stitch on your armpit on the other side. So I am half double crocheting. You could be doing a treble crochet or double crochet all the way until we get up to that stitch marker. When you get to your midpoint, either at your neckline or the back midpoint, we're not adding any stitches. We're going straight from the last stitch on one panel into the first stitch on the next. And when you get to your stitch marker under the next armpit, that's where we're increasing. So we are increasing on our sides, and everything else is the same. Now remember, I told you that the half double crochet row is a little bit different than the other rows. So all I'm going to do here is place a single crochet into that space. If you are working if you're working a double crochet row or a treble crochet row as the first row in your armpit, you're going to do a double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, or treble crochet, chain 3, treble crochet. The half double crochet row is different. So this is what our increases are going to be looking like.
How will they win?
With the chain 3s in that middle stitch, and then you can just continue to move your stitch marker up if you need it. Now you're just going to continue your stitches down until the point where you began. So again, I'm working my half double crochets. You might be working your double crochets or your treble crochets. And also again, I know it seems really confusing because there's so many different stitches and sizes to work with. So again, I apologize that it might not be the simplest pattern to follow in video because they're all just a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and continue my stitches until I get right to the beginning. Okay. So here I am all the way around in my half double crochet row, and the only thing I'm going to do here is just go ahead and slip stitch to my first single crochet to join. Now if yours started with a double crochet or a treble crochet row, remember on the other side we did a double crochet or a treble crochet, chain 3, and then double crochet or treble crochet into that same stitch. We're going to finish that out here. So when you're joining your double crochet or your treble crochet row, you are going to double crochet or place your stitch into the same stitch that you started with, chain 1, and then half double crochet to join. Now if you don't understand what I mean, hang tight until I finish my next row is double crochet, and then you'll see exactly how it works. Okay, so here's where I've slip stitched to join. My next row is a double crochet row. So I am going to chain 2, and now I'm turning my work. Don't forget to turn your work. Because we are working in the rounds, we need to turn our work so we can keep our texture in our pattern going properly. Our first stitch we're going to work into is the single crochet. So we're going to double crochet into the single crochet. It's going to kind of seem like you're working backwards, but you're not. And now we're going to double crochet into every stitch all the way around, or all the way till you get to your next stitch marker. Okay, here I am at my stitch marker, and I'm going to be working my increase. So if you remember from the first row, if you had a double crochet or half double crochet row, I am placing a double crochet into the marked stitch, chaining 3, and placing another double crochet into the same stitch. Now if you need your stitch marker, you can go ahead and move your stitch marker up to your chain 3 space. And now you're going to continue on with your double crochets, going back around to the beginning, and I will teach you how to join in the double crochet and the treble crochet rows, which are different than just the half double crochet row. These double crochet rows will increase your stitches by 2 stitches per row. Your double crochets will always be worked into the single crochet. So you'll have 1 extra stitch on each side because there are 2 double crochets worked into 1 single crochet. Okay, we're almost here at the beginning again. And remember I told you I would teach you how we were going to join that. And the reason we're joining the way that I'm going to show you is that it sets you up to work into the chain space that we just created. So what we're going to do is your last stitch is going to be a double crochet into the same place you started. And now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work a half double crochet into your first double crochet. So this kind of join is replacing your chain 3 space. Now in order to work our treble crochet row, what we're going to do is chain 3, because treble crochet row comes after our double crochet row, and turn our work. We're going to work our first treble crochet over the join. Oops. We're going to work our first treble crochet over the join. And when we come back around, we'll add our second one and our half double crochet, our single crochet. When we come back around, we will do our chain and our half double crochet join. So go ahead and work your treble crochets all the way until you get to your next stitch marker. And I'll meet you there and we will work our increase. Okay, so now that I'm at my increase point at 1 armpit, I have my marked stitch here. This is my chain 3 space. So my treble crochet row is going to have into that chain 3 space a treble crochet, chain 3, and another treble crochet. And then you're going to work your treble crochets all the way back around until you get to the other side, and I'll show you how to work the join here. Okay, so now that I have made it back to where we begin, I'm going to place my last treble crochet right into that same join where we first started our round. And to close this up, remember we're chaining 1 and placing a half double crochet into our first stitch. So from here, when we do our increase rows and we're doing our half double crochet row, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work, and into our join and also over here into our chain 3 space. Remember how down here we just started with a single crochet? That's what we're going to do up here. So we're just starting with a single crochet, and then we're going to half double crochet into every stitch up to our next increase point. So let me half double crochet into every stitch. I'll meet you back at your increase point. Okay, so I've made it to my increase point on the other side. I've got a half double crochet into my last treble crochet from the round before. And now I'm just going to place a single crochet into our chain 3 space. And if it's helpful, go ahead and place a stitch marker so in the next row you don't just do treble crochets over it on accident. Now we're just going to go straight to the other side and start half double crocheting into every stitch back to the beginning. So I will meet you back at the beginning. Alright, here I am back at the beginning where we started, and I'm just going to slip stitch to my single crochet to join, chain 2, and turn my work. And now I'm going to double crochet into my single crochet, and this is where you are now going to begin to repeat your half double crochet, treble crochet rows. Now you're going to repeat that really anywhere from like 6 to 9 times depending on the length that you want, or until your increase point here falls right about or just below your belt line. So it's customizable, of course, in your length. I personally did my 5 repeats, but I have some testers that did 9 repeats. So it just depends on the length that you want. And you will notice as it keeps growing, this is going to keep getting wider, and it's not as noticeable right now, but the sides are going to keep getting longer, and it's going to have this curve here. Okay, so you're going to continue to increase, and then the last round that you should be doing for your increase is a treble crochet round. And then once you have the length that you want, making sure that your treble crochet round is the last round of your body increases, that's where we're going to begin our split. So the first row of our split is going to be our half double crochet row. So I'm going to go ahead and finish out the double crochet and the treble crochet row, and then I'm going to show you how we are going to split them up. Okay, so once you get to the length that you want, let's just pretend that this is the length that my doll wants. And this is where her belt line is. And now we're going to make the split. So we're splitting our front, this is the bottom of our front and our back pieces, and we're no longer increasing. So your last row of the split should be a treble crochet row, and that's what I have showing here. And here's how we're going to begin our split. We're going to chain 1, and remember we're turning our project. So the first stitch on this side, which is only going to be here, so after your treble crochet, then you're going to do your repeats, of course. Half double crochet, half double crochet, half double crochet. So the row sequence after our split is half double crochet, and then treble crochet, those 3 same rows. The first row of half double crochet only is going to have a half double crochet into your chain space, and then a half double crochet all the way across into every stitch until you get to the end of your row. Your last half double crochet will fall into the chain space. So over here, your last half double crochet will be into that chain space, and then you're going to put your stitch marker there, because once you finish the length desired that you want, remember we're splitting it. So now we're just working back and forth rows on either the front or the back. So that's going to grow to the desired length that you want. And then you'll turn your work around, reattach your yarn at your marked space, and then make the back or the front exactly just like the other side. So repeat rows 1, 2, and 3, half double crochet, treble crochet. The first row of your split is your half double crochet row, and then continuing on, you're going to work however many repeats you want on one side, then join your yarn and work the same thing on the other side. Now remember I said we're not increasing anymore. So only that first row is going to have a stitch into the chain space, and then we don't have chain spaces anymore. So your count is going to be exactly the same. Your first stitch is always going to be on top of the first stitch. Your last stitch is always going to be on top of your last stitch. And then you're going to end that on a half double crochet row. Okay? Hopefully that has been useful enough for you, understanding enough for you. If there are any issues with what I'm saying, or it's not as understandable, you can join the Jolie Knots Crochet community on Facebook, and we'll be able to help answer your questions there. I have a lot of comments in the sections, or I'm sorry, in the videos, and so it's hard for me to go back and forth and try to answer everybody's questions. But the Jolie Knots Crochet community group is really, really amazing about helping with questions. Or if you are able to follow the written patterns better, then go ahead and download the written pattern. And again, I'll leave the link in the description box below. Okay? Thank you everybody for watching Jolie Knots Crochet. Again, I'm Crystal. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Jolie Knots Crochet. Join the Jolie Knots Crochet community on Facebook and show us what you've created.